Hey, it's Dan Mulhern. Thanks for tuning in to Diacardia, the podcast for pairs and partners, the podcast to speak and listen through the heart. Two introductory notes. First, Diacardia I've designed for partners to listen to me as you would listen to any other podcast host, but especially to listen to each other and to practice that in real time. So the bulk of the time I expect you would spend would be with each other in conversation. And so if your spouse or your adult child or a friend who's in town, if your coworker or your boss or your co-founder is available, listen with them. Second, I encourage you to hop over to YouTube. I love Spotify for my podcasts. You might be listening there or on Apple. But YouTube allows us to use visuals, and I know as a teacher and a professor that auditory and visual learning can work really well. Okay, if you can't do that, no problem. I'm going to do my best to describe what people are seeing on the screen if that's important, but it should hopefully feel seamless to you. I'll get better at this. Be patient with me. Let's go. What people are seeing on the screen at this particular moment is a picture of a Diet Coke can in its beautiful, attractive silver and red. And to the right of that, the word values. I put them together because I am a bit of a Diet Coke addict. And so I don't even taste it most of the time. It's just a habit and a memory. And values can be like that too. They can seem like they are just extremely academic, unimportant, or abstract. And I think you'll see today that values really have value. I'm going to invite you to listen to me and to talk and listen to each other. And I promise 3 outcomes. I promise you that first of all, you will respect what your partner deeply values, and that will feel good to you. Second, you and your partner will feel respected when you are listened to about your deep values. And thirdly, and this is really important, values provide a groundwork for doing the hardest work, because in all partnerships, we drift from time to time or we conflict. And I promise you that this will give you a strong foundation and a methodology to deal with some of the hardest chronic issues that you face, what John and Julie Gottman in the marriage research describe as perpetual issues. They come at you over and over. We'll do this, if you've been with me before or are here for the first time, in a 5-part way that I'll talk for a couple minutes. I won't talk, I'll lead you in centering breath so that we're really getting into a place where we're comfortable with where we are and we've forgotten the distractions. Secondly, we'll talk about gratitude and you'll share with each other. Third, I'll talk for a little bit about values and why they're so important, especially in hard issues, perpetual issues that come up. And then a few minutes just to set you up to have a conversation. Then you have your conversation, and then I encourage you to pause at that point. I'll tell you when we've gotten there. And then after you've paused, come back just for a few closing words from me. So that's the game plan. Hope you're on board for that. Looking forward to sharing these thoughts with you today. So, breathing. If you were with me last week on our session on listening and on the idea of ting, of really listening, you'll know that there's tremendous research on the value of breath work, and that even 2 minutes of conscious aware breathing has physiologically positive effects. I won't go through the whole list today. You'll see it if you're online. But I just want to point out, too, that when you consciously breathe, you actually lower your heart rate. You make that little ticker inside you work a little bit less and have a little bit more energy for the future. And physiologically, you're also reducing your stress hormones. You're bringing down the cortisol that's in your system. So that's why we do it. How will we do it? We'll do it like we did in the last episode, if you were with me. We're going to breathe only through our nose, both in and out. And we're going to do it in a pattern, breathing in through your nose and then listening as you do it, listening to yourself. If you're close to your partner, you can listen to them too. But primarily, listening to yourself breathing. And the pattern will be this. I will count 3 counts for you to breathe in through your nose, 3 counts to hold your breath, and then 6 counts to release your breaths. You're going to push it all out. Lots of science on that. I won't get into it. So if you're ready, in for 3 counts. 1, 2, 3. Hold. 1, 2, 3. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, listening to yourself. In. 2, 3. Hold. 2, 3. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more time. In through your nose. Listen. 2, 3. Hold. 2, 3. Listen on the way out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And maybe you'll notice the calming. It's a wonderful thing to practice, especially today. We'll be talking about how this is a foundation or a groundwork for heart issues. And calming yourself is extremely important in those times. Okay, second practice, this one to do together, appreciating. And today I want to suggest you can share the minute, I'll tell you when it starts, and talk about anything that you appreciate about your partner. But I would suggest that you appreciate something that they may do that you don't always love. I shared with my wife last night practice this, and I shared with her that I really appreciate how she appreciates, how she values, you could use that word, how she appreciates family and how she's always building community among us. Our 2 oldest children live next door to us, and Jennifer is incredibly generous in going over there to help out with the 2 grandchildren at the drop of a hat, despite her pretty darn busy life. And I really appreciate that. I named that one because sometimes I feel a little competitive or a little resentful that she's not spending time with me, or competitive. Am I being as good a grandpa and a father as she's being a grandmother and a mother? So sometimes it helps to take something that may seem like something that's difficult sometimes that they appreciate. Order in the house, speed at work, caring about people. Sometimes those attributes may actually bother you. Sometimes people go too fast. You want to slow down. Some people go too slow. So this is just a chance to take a minute, and I won't say another word other than start. You have 1 minute to appreciate your partner, and then you'll have 1 minute for them to appreciate you. Go. See if you can keep it going. Another 5 seconds left. And now flip. I appreciate that you appreciate. Okay, fist bumps, a high five, a nod of acknowledgement, whatever makes it work for you. Relationships, as you know from the very first episode I did, thrive with positivity. But now today, here's the promise. The promise, as I mentioned to you, is that the listener, when it's your turn, gains respect or renews respect or heightens respect. The speaker feels respected, feels that respect when they're sharing a deep down value, and you build a common ground to align on issues. And I want to tell you, in the work that we're doing in Diacardia, it's always research-based. People can have tremendous intuitions. Sometimes I think I have them, but I think it's really important to look at the research. And so today I just want to quickly highlight the Gottman work on the 7 principles of marriages that really work. And then I want to tell you just a little bit about my work on working with people in business, with partners and coworkers in business, because I think you deserve to know why it matters and how values start to fit in. John and Julie Gottman, as you may know, wrote a book on the 7 practices that predict lasting love. And in their book, based on 4 decades of research and thousands of couples in what they called their love lab, they identified these 7 practices. They're not theoretical. They emerge from really close observation of couples talking about issues and them coding those conversations. And so they talked about 7 things: building love maps, meaning knowing what your partner cares about and why; sharing fondness and admiration, which you just did, right, for each other; turning toward instead of away, an easy thing to do when you're high-fiving because things are great, a harder thing to do when things are difficult; maintaining a positive perspective, which again, this practice of gratitude we always do in Diacardia is about supporting that positive perspective; managing conflict; 6th, making life dreams come true; and 7th, creating shared meaning. And that's really where we're at today, is on this notion of creating shared meaning and how we do that. So what I'd like to share with you is a little bit about how business partnerships echo the very same truths. This is based on research that I did at University of California, Berkeley, along with students who were working with me. We did about 100 interviews asking people about what's your best ever partnership, and getting them to talk about why it was so in their own words. And out of that, we found 15 factors that seemed extremely important, that seemed to keep coming up over and over. And we took those 15 drivers of great relationships, and we tested those out. We surveyed over 700 people, asking them, among those 15 values, which ones are most important? Tell us about 4. And among those 4, rank them in order. And so what I want to share with you is what we learned about great work partnerships, and I'm going to make quick connections between the Gottman's work and this work that we did at Berkeley in business partnerships. So the Gottmans talk about building love maps, and that's what Diacardia for Discovery is really all about, is starting to map out your own life so your partner can navigate you, and mapping out their life, your dreams and your hopes and your disappointments and your style of approaching things. So we're really quite aligned on that one. A second one, they said maintain a positive perspective. Our research said positivity and gratitude were extremely important. The Gottmans found in personal relationships that sharing fondness and admiration were important. Again, same thing here. We found respect for competence was really important, that kind of admiration you have for someone you work with or work for. They said that making life dreams come true, well, that was vision, and you could go back and listen to episode 2. That's what we found was one of the most overwhelmingly important drivers in business relationships. They said great partners in marriage manage conflict, and what we heard over and over and over again, the number one driver of the quality of relationships was open communication. And that's why Diacardia is structured not just to tell you something, but to give you the opportunity to communicate openly about important issues. 2 more. They said turn toward instead of away. And here I just want to say 2 things. Number 1, that's what you're doing, is you're turning toward each other. And I just applaud you for that. We get busy. Relationships are hard or they're taken for granted, but you are communicating with each other when you come here. And we found that frequent communication was a key driver. We wondered about this because we had heard that overwhelmingly people talked about open communication, but a bunch of people in our interviews also talked about frequency. And indeed, when we did the surveys, frequent communication and open communication were incredibly important. And lastly, the Gottmans talk about creating shared meaning. And what I would call this in the business world, and what people told us in their business partnerships, was this was vision, a shared meaning of what success is, and this was values. This was how are we going to be with each other? How are we going to be human beings along the way? And people in great business partnerships find that shared meaning by identifying their values. Okay, so how can values work for you? Well, let's set the scene, if you will. Let's set the scene, and I mean that literally. You're on a journey, you're on a trek, you're going somewhere, and almost all partnerships begin with a beautiful journey. You're climbing a hill, it's a hike, but you want to do it. There's a vision in sight. There's the top of a mountain far away, and you're going to reach that mountain, and that is awesome, and that's what attracts us to each other. Sometimes it's hard with business partners and sometimes it's hard with life partners, but we start usually with positivity, side by side, and a great challenge. And then life happens, right? This inevitably happens. As the environment changes, the sky gets a little bit dark. The environment may be children. It may be a new boss who's not like the old boss. It may be a shrinking marketplace where you had a great idea as co-founders, and now it's being eliminated by AI, or somebody is edging you out completely. Amazon's rates are too darn high. So the skies get dark. And the hill doesn't look so exciting anymore, and you're tired. It's been a long day. You have kids, and or you have parents you're taking care of. There's a lot of work and a lot of demand. So the skies get dark, and the 2 people who are symbolically walking up the hill together now start to come unglued from each other. They're no longer holding hands, metaphorically or literally. They're starting to look at each other like, do I want to be here with you? And what am I going to do about this? And in front of them, there are choices, two different paths, and they don't agree which path to take. That's what happens with all of my paired leadership clients in my Leading by Two business. Something's happening that one wants one path and the other wants another. So what do we do here? Well, we are equipped. We are equipped as beings, in particular human beings, but equipped with the same thing that animals are equipped with. We have the unconscious and sometimes conscious, but often unconscious instinct to fight, to flee, or to freeze. So we make our partner the problem, the enemy, we fight with them, we argue, we try to gain control. Or we freeze, or we flee, I want to go in a different order. So fight, flight. One of us takes off. We say, I'm going down the path. You come with me or not. Or, we start to wander, as we might in relationships, and flee from the issues. Don't want to talk about them. Too tired. Things are going on. So we do that. And then the third one, the third instinct that we have is to freeze. We just stop. And we may freeze them out. That may be part of it, which is a little more like flight, if you want to be honest, or it's passive-aggressive. It's flight into not talking, and it's aggressive because we know it will upset the other person. But I want to stop here because freeze is highly underrated. And what I want to suggest to you is that freezing is the perfect starting point when there's difficulty. Freezing is the perfect starting point when there is difficulty. Because when we stop, we can change things dramatically. And I want to invite you to do a little experiment with me, with your partner next to you, but independently. Or if you're listening to this alone, fine, and you can do it if you're hiking or driving a car. Is see if you can't freeze into awareness. So if you think of an issue that you're having a problem with your partner, I want to invite you just to feel the instinctive responses. So first, just tighten your fists. Not like you're going to punch them or hit them. This is just a fantasy, an experience of feeling your body. Feel what it feels like. Tighten those fists. Feel it in your arms. Maybe you want to make a grrr sound because your jaw is tight. That's what fight feels like. What does flight feel like in your body? Well, I invite you on this one to just jitter your feet. Just kind of bounce them up and down. Think about that issue with your partner and think, I don't want to think about that issue. I don't want to talk about that issue. Let yourself feel your feet wanting to go, get me out of here. And then just one more somatic or embodied experience. When you get really frustrated, you can put your hands on your scalp, as I am, and you can say the words in your mind. You can say them out loud if you're by yourself. That might come up like, oh, you're driving me crazy. My head is going to explode. I don't know how much more of this I can take. Okay, now just take a deep exhale. I've actually charged myself up with this kind of, let's call it for now, negative energy of fighting, of fleeing, or of that kind of freezing, that kind of brain freeze that's so painful. Okay, now let's pivot from those three postures into peace and possibility. You're going to pivot into peace and possibility. So tighten those fists and then open them. Just feel what it feels like to have your hands in front of you. I have them in front of me and was glancing at my picture. What does it feel like to open your hands? What does it feel like to ground your feet? So let them jitter again for a second and just ground them. Feel your butt in the chair if you're sitting down. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the earth if you're walking. Feel each step on the ground. And then thirdly, put your hands to your head like you're mad, but now soothe yourself. Maybe think of it like a shampoo. I think the song was from South Pacific. I'm going to wash that man right out of my hair or out of my life. But just feel the soothing quality for a minute, that you can calm yourself. When you're feeling out of control and feel like you have to fight to get your way, or you have to flee because it's too hard and they're going to get hurt or you're going to get hurt, just soothe yourself with your hands. Maybe you can feel the difference and take a good in-breath through your nose and a good out-breath. Nice to know I can let go. Not so nice to know how tight I can get, how angry, afraid, or crazed I can get. But how nice to know I can open my hands, I can open my heart, I can ground myself. I don't need to run. There's no extreme urgency most of the time. And I can soothe myself. When there is difficulty in relationship, and it is always there, at least beneath the surface, the way forward is almost never coercing your partner. It's not even persuading them about the right thing, though we all have instincts to do that. And it's not even talking. The way forward comes from listening to and listening for the values. Just listen to what they care about. It doesn't mean you're accepting everything and throwing away all of your own self-interest. It just means that you're listening. And if you both listen to each other, you can go from flight, where you're in other rooms, as I've walked out of the room on my children, my bosses, and even my wife. But you're coming back in the room. You're not in fight, where it's confrontation, a zero sum, one wins, one loses, I need to win. But you're actually sitting on the same side of the table, looking out the window and saying, what are you seeing? What are you seeing? What's important to you? What do you want to happen in this situation? So let me transition for a minute into setting you up for your own conversation. If you were with me last week, you know I invented or imported from China with no tariffs. I imported the word ting, which is comprised of 5 separate or radical, they're called radicals, from other characters in Chinese, in Mandarin. One is the ear, you listen. One is respect, a way that you listen. You choose to bring respect. One is the eye. You notice that they're getting stressed. You notice they're upset. You slow down. You notice they're trying to say something. You wait for them. Undivided attention is the 4th character that makes up ting. And the 5th character is heart. You come and just appreciate them. So 2 ways into your diacardia. The diacardia is basically going to be this. I'd like to share an important value with you. It may arise when I think about an issue we're in conflict about or not. If you know what that is already, what value you want to share, then you just go ahead and share it. If you don't know what you want to share, then have your partner ask you, what would you like to share? And the partner can assure you with words like these that are on the screen, I'll work to get you to understand. I won't correct you. I promise I won't argue. I won't take it as an attack on me. or make it all about me. This is just a no judgment zone, and I want to know what you value and why, and how I can listen to you better and respect you better. So a few words about this. The value you share could be around a perpetual issue, a challenge that you have about how to deal with the kids, how to deal with money, how to deal with the budget, who should present when the two of you are doing a presentation at work, etc. It could be around home or family or what you value in your future, what you value in your budget priorities, what you value about intimacy, your employees, your kids. It could be about a classic value, values that businesses talk about: integrity, excellence, kindness. It could be about a value like beauty or nature. It could feel to you like, oh, you already know this, but share it anyway. It's come up for you. Trust your intuition. Trust what you're thinking. And it even could feel selfish. You could feel selfish, especially if you're raised religion. I don't want to talk about me and talk about my values. But really, it will help your partner know you better, and there is tremendous value in that. Okay, last instructions. Ready? 5 steps to ting, to really listen well in Diacardia. And I'm going to give you the ones before first. I'm going to give you the ones before. And then you can just pause the video. And after the first person finishes, then take a look at the 2 points to share after. So when you're listening, notice when your brain is making it about you, which maybe you were hoping you wouldn't make it about you, about your truth, about your guilt, about your worry, or about your values. Just notice and let it go. It doesn't have to be about you. This part is about them. Secondly, return to letting your partner have and share their values. That's obvious. So notice that you made it about you. Bring your attention back to them. And third, if they're stuck, I would suggest you take 10 minutes each. If they're stuck, ask open-ended questions. How is it like that? What is it like? Can you tell me more? When is that value really important to you? When is it at risk? What is it that I do that triggers it for you, which is not about me and how bad or how defensive I am, but about you. What is it that I do? Cool? And then when you come back, rekey the audio or the video on YouTube and answer these questions after you've listened to them. Tell them what you heard and ask, is that right or is there more? And thank them. And then when you've finished with all of that, then restart the tape after the second person is gone. Restart the podcast for a couple of closing words. Well, thanks for joining me for Diacardia. I hope you're feeling what I promised you would, that you feel a little more respected. Your partner feels a little more respected. You have more respect for each other. And you feel like you have a foundation that if you both explore values on a tough issue, that you can both solve in that instant. You can solve in that situation, not as a blanket. It's about kindness versus honesty. It's about spending the money versus not spending the money. It's about disciplining the kids or giving them more room. It's about me doing all the presentations or you doing all the presentations at work. It's just this situation. And the two of you can let your values guide each other by each sharing what's important to you. So share Diacardia with others if you're getting value from this. Subscribe in Spotify or podcast or YouTube so you know when a new episode, typically on the first Sunday, is released. Leave me comments. I'd love them, and I think others would as well. I learn a lot of times from comments that other people leave. It's not just for the podcaster. And last, email me at dan@leadingx2.com. Email me at dan@leadingx2.com and let me know what you'd like to talk about, how I can improve the podcast, what value you're getting. Thank you so much, and continue to lead by speaking and listening with an open heart. Ting.